Welcome back to another episode of the Midtown Madness podcast with Peter Hale and Zach Miller. Saturday was a rough 24 hours for Billiken fans. Both men's soccer and men's basketball teams were in action, but we're going to kick off the show talking soccer, and we're fortunate enough to be joined by Kyle Hopson. Kyle was a member of the 2003 Billiken team that reached the same round as this year's edition. Kyle, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Zach. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, so I mean, your kind of first reaction when you pull up the stream, first of all, what a nightmare of a stream that was, and you see that field up there in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. How much do you feel for those guys?
Well, my first thought was, here we go again, right? Because when we played in the Elite Eight, it was on like a frozen tundra up in Maryland. So yeah, I definitely felt for them. The conditions are for both sides, right? Obviously, it's not ideal to play that high level of a match, that importance. So yeah, I felt for them.
What was your reaction going into that Maryland game, and then what does the coaching staff do to kind of try to control the emotions on the team that are just kind of like this sucks?
It's tough. I think, for us, it was more, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. It was more, I think you have to manage, both teams have to play on the field, right? So both sides are dealing with the same conditions. It's unfortunate that two high-level programs got to that point, a quarterfinal, Elite Eight game, and that's the field, we're playing on. So you have to keep everybody focused towards the goal of winning this game, right? Getting through this game, this challenge, it's just another variable, the field, and then on to the next round, right? To the College Cup. So I think, as a coach, everything's positive. You're staying focused on your team and what you have to do to win. Obviously, the conditions are going to play a factor, right? You have to change the way you play. So you have to make adjustments within the game, probably.
Yeah. The game started, fairly even. And I think it was even for the most part. I thought the Billikens had their opportunities, but you have a play where the ball gets passed back to Schulte, I think, for one of the, maybe the third time, Pete. You said it was about the third time.
Yeah, it felt like they had, and again, we didn't get much of the first 20 minutes or so, just based on streaming issues, but they had played it back to him a few times in a short amount of time. And every time I got more and more nervous just because, you could see Washington kind of giving chase every time. And given the field conditions, it was just like, man, it's like one too many variables for me to be comfortable with that. And of course, it came back to bite them.
I mean, so when that, is that something that you would, tell your players or be, have the coach tell the players, like, when in doubt, just go out. We don't need to possess. We can just let's live to fight another day.
Right. Absolutely. I think you could tell by Schulte's, after the fact, right? After it happened, he kind of gave a gesture like, hey, this is why I didn't want the ball. Let's not do this anymore, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to have to make an adjustment. You play all year, right? You're accustomed to playing the way you're facing, play back to your goalie, and then you're out. And he has good feet. So I think you're right. Pete, we played a couple back to him and had no problem, but you could see on that side of the box, it was a little, it was rough to say the least. So I think, you're making adjustments there. There's no problem.
The one before that came on the other side of the box, which wasn't quite as muddy looking. But the side that it got played on that time, it was way worse. It happened so fast. And I the way I kind of described it last night, it felt like the game had kind of an edginess to it because you could tell guys were trying to avoid mistakes, but at the same time, you're playing with such energy and such force because of this is the Elite Eight, and it's win or go home. You're playing now. It's just the best teams that are left. So there was a really kind of weird, nervous energy to the whole thing, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a huge game. I mean, they work all season. You never know when you're going to go back, and to have it outside of the conditions, you're anxious, you're excited.
Mhm.
It takes, the energy goes up another level, the focus. So it's I would say I agree. That the game was really good back and forth. I thought we had a lot of the game after the goals, kind of settled in and started taking it to them a little bit, but just couldn't create those opportune chances, right? In the final third.
What
Right.
were some of the bright spots for the Billikens? Obviously, the bright spot on the night was the Washington goal, which was a fantastic individual effort to get to the end line and then cut it back for redirection with pace is the only way I could describe it. But on the Billiken side, who did you see on that field that really stood out to you?
For me, I think Gilbert, right? Is that his last name? Wide left.
Wide left.
I'm sorry.
For the Billikens.
Billikens, yeah.
It would be. I'm thinking Isaiah Parker on the wide left.
Parker, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Parker. Right. I read something. Gilbert. Yeah, Parker. I think he's, his one-on-one ability is something that I thought that they could have taken more advantage of.
Yeah.
Right. Get in the box, create chances. And there was a little, 5 or 10 minutes where they were really working that side, and he was getting the ball in the box. And in those conditions, we're not going to be able to ping the ball, right? So it's going to be more one-on-one battles with balls in the box. And I think for me, he stood out for a while. Sorry, I butchered his last name there. But yeah, and I like the kid. He's a former wrestler like myself, so that's always a plus.
Given the lack of any sound for 2/3 of the game, and the fact that this wasn't a very good stream, like I couldn't make numbers out at all.
Yeah.
My eyes aren't what they used to be, but still, it was like I couldn't see anything out there. So I'm trying to like tweet on our account, keep up with the game, and I'm like, I honestly don't know who just made that play. But the other thing I thought, we did kind of create, there were plenty of times where we did kind of create some chaos in front of the net, a couple times off of corners. I thought kind of late in the first half and early in the second half is when we kind of had our best chances. But as the second half wore on, it just kind of felt like we kind of, I don't know, it felt like there was a little structure missing, and we were just kind of playing just kind of smash mouth soccer, like trying to run up the middle, go right at them. And I understand the circumstances were not ideal and you're playing from behind, but I kind of felt it getting away from us as the second half went on.
Yeah, I agree. I think we had some momentum going into halftime. It felt like if we could just get one before the half, that this, there was definitely still a chance. But as the, second half started and it was a lot of the same, we were getting in there, but then they were able to fend us off. And I think their back six did an excellent job, really, in the air. And not that they were playing balls out, but just, hitting it out of bounds or just, blocking shots, keeping us away, keeping us outside. They did an excellent job there. So I agree.
Do you have any idea why the team would have switched sides right before kickoff? That was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know if that was strategy. They were just not trying to play a mind game or something, but the way that we went the second half, I thought was an advantage. The way that they played and, the pass back to Schulte, right?
Yeah.
That was, I don't know that it seemed like it was easier to defend and play out of the back from the second half, right? Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, what would, I don't know. It just felt like gamesmanship or something. Like what would even allow them to do that? Because you could tell Schulte didn't know it was coming. Like you saw him like grab his water bottle and stuff like that. And he was, all of a sudden moving down to the other net. I'm like, I didn't know that you could just do that. Again, without any announcers, it was weird, but I'm not sure what gave them the ability to just kind of say, no, we want to start on that side.
Or did they take the wrong side intentionally?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it
just felt really late to me for that to be happening.
Right.
The gamesmanship would be that Washington knows what side they're supposed to be on, but would take the other side intentionally to kind of they would get out first ahead of SLU, and then SLU would take their side, and then be like, wait a minute, no.
You just figure that stuff's like settled before, the
And it
broadcast.
is typically, but they're taking a team photo. Our guys are huddled up. Seemed like they're on the right side of the field. It was a little bit of a
right
to me gamesmanship, right, on Washington's side. So
how demoralizing is it though that you give up that goal that's a fluke, and then 5 minutes later, they say 2-0 is the toughest lead in soccer, but you give up an outstanding goal 5 minutes later, and it does. At that point, it's got to feel like the weight of the world is now on your shoulders to try to come back.
yeah, I think it's just get the next goal. That's the message, right? Score the next goal, get back in the game, and we're right. I think they played enough close games throughout the year. Obviously, this one's much higher stakes, right? But that's the message from the bench, and that from your leadership is, hey, let's just get the next goal and then battle back from there. So it's tough though, right? I mean, that first one is really tough, especially if you're, a goalkeeper that hasn't given up too many goals, a backline that hasn't made too many mistakes. They're pretty clean, then immediately you're going, it's his field, right? It's right back to the field. So
you can't let that stuff creep in.
Yeah, you can't let it, right? It's just the message is score the next goal.
Do is there anything that would have allowed them to play this game somewhere else? I mean, I know the rules are like, hey, you're going to play a home game at whoever's the higher seed in the tournament, and that's just how it worked out in this one. But I mean, at what point can either the NCAA or some kind of conference or some governing body step in and go, we honestly we don't want to see people getting hurt out here. Can we move it across town to this turf field that's maybe in better shape or something like that? I mean, is that something that's even possible?
I'm not sure. Yeah, there's got to be a high school field right down the road, right? And I get it. Their students are there. They had a big, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. They're in Seattle, right? There's all kinds of options. Let's be honest.
Yeah, so Seattle. So right by the Space Needle, they've got this. It's like I think the city public schools own it, and it's like this really old, like 100-year-old stadium with like a grandstand, like covered bleachers, and it's a really nice turf field, honestly. And it made me wonder, like, it's Saturday night. Most high school stuff is played on a Friday night. Why? It's just a few miles away. I don't know why they couldn't have moved over there, but what do I know?
Well, right.
We were getting, everybody watched that Indiana highlight, and that's when you're like, okay, what's the forecast going to be next weekend? And then you start getting rumors out of the camp, the travel party, that this field looks like Jamaica in the World Cup qualifying. And
it felt very CONCACAF-y. All of it did. It was like, here we are. We're playing the number 2 overall seed. We're playing England, but we're playing them in Trinidad. Like, what is going on here? Everything felt
not
so
Jamaica,
wrong.
Not Jamaica, Trinidad. You're right.
It felt
like
so
to
wrong.
think that their player, they want to play on a nice pitch too, right? So I don't know. So they destroyed the field the week before, right, against Indiana.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it looked like they tried to even lay sod to repair. It was raw.
They need to consult the St. Louis University groundskeepers. They've been doing this stuff for 100 years.
The resodding was kind of embarrassing because you'd have those big brown patches, circles with like a green square inside it. It was clearly like, all right, a Band-Aid on a flesh wound. It was not enough.
Right. It was interesting, and it's unfortunate. But I mean, I think Washington clearly has a good team, right?
Yeah.
Number 2 for a reason. But you'd like to see that game played on a normal conditions on the field, right? So both sides could put their best effort out there,
right?
Play the style they want to play. For us too, as fans, it would have been much better.
You said Washington clearly looked like the number 2 team out there. Did you see a big skill gap between them and SLU?
No, I would say they're number 2 for a reason, right? They've done as far as their season. I did not see a huge skill gap at all. Really. I thought we were a more solid team. I I mean, not that I saw gaps in their lineup, or there was a couple guys on their team like that play on the goal.
Christian
That's
Soto, yeah.
yeah. So a standout player, the Chavez or Tevez,
Tevez, yeah.
Yeah.
scored 6 goals or hat tricks the last 2 games. He's doing something right. Obviously, they had a lot of like playmakers, but as far as a full team, I like our side. I
Yeah.
think stacking up.
Speaking of roster construction and a team, putting a team together that can compete for a national championship like they tried to do this year and almost damn near succeeded. What do you see from Kalish and on a macro level that has you excited about the future of this program?
So I heard him say last night, was it 3 seniors?
Yeah.
7, is that the numbers?
Yeah, there's
7 juniors?
not many.
There's not many, right? So obviously that's exciting, going forward. That experience is going to be huge for next year, and it's huge for recruiting. I mean, for this year's team, they had all the pieces. I mean, I can tell you, when I went to the game earlier in the season against Creighton, went the first 2 games, and I thought that you have a goal scorer who, Johnny Klein, and both those guys move off the ball. Excellent, right? They're not just goal scorers and playmakers, but the ball movement. They're working to find the ball, so that's huge. The back 6, solid in the air, which is the college game, but can also play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Play with their feet out of the back. They're all willing to play, and I saw a team that I thought could definitely make a run. Had all the pieces you need. Good goaltender, so.
It'll be interesting to see what you mentioned the youth, and you've got this St. Louis City SC under 23 program getting rolling, and it'll be interesting to see whether a guy like Schulte decides that's the better path, or a guy I think Betcher and Klein both have one more year to go, so it'll be interesting to see if they want to come back and run another one.
I mean, I'm not sure what the rules are there. If they sign to play for the U23, do they have to waive their final year?
I don't know if they want to, go to the academy, that program full time, whereas not so much whether they want to play with them during the summer, more so if they want to move on full time.
Sure. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I agree. For me, after losing the way they did in the Elite 8, I would like to think they're coming back. If they have one more shot, right, and the pieces are in place, I think it's not too hard you don't have to twist their arm for that one, because there's nothing like it, right? That's the ultimate experience. For me, I played minimal minutes in those games in that Elite 8, but just being a part of that, traveling up to Maryland, just those tournament games, it's not an experience you'll have anywhere else, even at the pro level, right? So
yeah, what year was that for you? That 03
2003. 2003.
Well, I mean, for you, were you a freshman, sophomore?
Oh, I redshirted a freshman, but it's sophomore year, second year at SIUE.
Yeah, I mean, what is that like? You're 19, but you've got, you go out and you're playing in front of, 6,000-7,000 a packed stands up in Maryland, and you've got it's a crowd that's against you. Are you the kind of player that loves that, or are you kind of like more, when do you get more from the home crowd than?
No, I love that. I like that tension in the air. You can definitely, and we came out in that game. We were up 2-0. I don't know if you guys recall it all. 2-0 at halftime. Same deal. One half of the field was ice. So we were going where their goalie was slipping and sliding. And then second half, they were going towards the ice. So Martin Hutton was our goalie at the time. The footing was horrible. There was really no chance, or they would just ping balls and they were just skipping in that. It was like skipping on ice. So it was tough. But yeah, to answer your question, playing up there, I enjoy that. I thrive in that kind of environment. And I think a lot of players do.
Yeah, well, hey, Kyle, I appreciate it. It's great talking to you, man.
Yeah.
It's good to hear from you. I haven't gotten a chance to see you in a while. So good to hear from you. And thanks for coming on and giving your perspective, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they keep the group together and core the group together for next year and make another run. It was an excellent season, really solid team. So I enjoyed watching. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, man.
Thanks,
Hey,
Kyle.
have a good night.
All right.
See ya.
Take care. Talk to you later.
Well, thanks to Kyle for coming on the pod. Good friend of mine. Always love talking to him. Pete, I mean, he gave great perspective on it. I mean, I think we as fans get into this, mode where we want to kind of blame something else. Cause I mean, we love these guys, right? Like,
Yeah.
we get into this groove where we want to find something else to hang the blame on. And I think the blame can be hung on, Washington. The blame can be hung on Washington, I think.
This is one of those games that could have been, if somebody's out there and like blows a knee, or some other severe injury on this field, I think probably, whatever gripes we might have as fans would have been really illustrated right there. So I am really grateful that nobody on either side got hurt
Absolutely.
in this game.
And I'll hang my head on that disingenuously because
I mean, yeah,
no, I will. You genuinely believe, like me, I'll just be the ass. I'll just be the ass that complains about it.
But this was a game where you really, really do wonder, all things being equal, we play them under just decent conditions. I can't imagine that first goal happens. They definitely earned that second one. There's nothing you can blame that second one on. That was just a wonderful play on their part. But I really do wonder, because like Kyle said, like we said, I did not see this. For example, the women, when they ran into Rutgers, it was like, this is a whole other level of skill, of talent, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was not that in this game at all. These teams were top tier teams, peers, going head to head, and felt like that would have been a really close game. I mean, 2-0, 2-0 is not a blowout or anything, but I just felt like that would have been a much different game, under different circumstances. So it's a real shame to have to go out like that.
Yeah, it is. And I, like Kyle said, I also hope that this team sticks together. I've heard rumblings that that a couple of them do want to move on and try to start their pro career. I think there's something to be said with, soccer, and that it's easy to get into a pro system and start your development. Because you see a guy like Jordan Goodwin in basketball who goes pro, and all of a sudden he develops these other parts of his game because all he's doing is playing. So there is something to be said for the better development that comes with doing it at a professional level where you're not going to school.
Yeah, you don't want to miss your window. I remember, so back in my era at SLU, he was a class ahead of me, both at Chaminade and SLU. Brad Davis left after I guess his sophomore year, my freshman year at SLU, and basically said that, look, if I want to have a shot at the 2004 Olympics, 2006 World Cup, I have to go now. If I wait another year, I can't. It's unlikely that I'll make the rosters of the teams that are going to be competing for those events. So he basically had his sights on the men's national team, and if he wanted to have any shot at all, he had to go then. It's a little bit different calculation for a lot of these guys. I don't think any of them are going straight to the national team program, but you do kind of have a window. You're only so young for so long, and I don't begrudge anyone's decision. If they've got an opportunity to play pro, go for it. And like we talked to Coach Kalish about a few nights ago, he feels really good about all of the players that they've got waiting in the wings. So this is a deep team that will, from the looks of it, be competitive for a long time. And this was a really fun season, and I just can't wait for more.
Yeah, we'll just run down the game real quick. It was a 2-0 loss at the University of Washington on the dog track. 21st minute, Gio Miglietti gets his 6th of the game. Unfortunate turnover off a back pass to Schulte. Schulte tries to clear the ball. It hits off the back of a Washington player right to Gio, and he finishes the easy one in the open net. 5 minutes later, Miglietti scores again, but off an outstanding piece of individual skill by Christian Soto, dicing run through the Billiken defense, centered the ball, and Gio just directed it right into the net with pace, as I said. That's his 7th of the year. Gio really, look what I found in this one is kind of the flavor of the month for this kid. I
Yeah.
mean, like both his goals, I mean, right place, right time, but come on,
Yeah.
man. Like somebody else did the work. Why? Yeah, somebody else did the work, whether it be, getting in, pressuring Schulte, or making a dicing run. Pete, run us down the overall stats in this game.
Yeah, so SLU outshot Washington 17-13, but Washington put one more on net, 4-3 on goal. Corners, SLU had 8, Washington 6, and SLU had one more foul, 13 to their 12. Officially, there were 2 yellow cards in this one. Burks on Washington got one in the 50th minute, and then Fowler in the 87th minute. I could have sworn
I agree with
late in the
this.
first half, the ref showed a card to somebody on SLU, and I thought it was Palazzolo. At first, I thought it was Klein, then I thought it was Palazzolo. It was right in the middle of the field, kind of a sliding tackle from behind. And I could have positive he took his yellow out, but it never looked registered anywhere, and I couldn't find any trace of it. So
You are
for what it's worth,
right.
on the scorecard, it's officially Washington with 2 yellows and SLU none, but I thought we had at least one. So that's the rundown of the box score in this one, and just to kind of give people an overview of what's left in the men's tournament. The Washington is the number 2 overall seed. So they were favored to win that region, and they did indeed come out of it. Georgetown, the number 3 overall seed, is who they'll be facing in the Final Four. So pretty chalky on that side of the bracket. And honestly, it's the same thing on the other side of the bracket, because number 4 Notre Dame, the favorite from their region, will face number 8 Clemson, who needed PKs to beat the number 1 overall seed Oregon State. So we were just a PK away from this being the top 4 seeds in the Final Four, which is pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, I just want to point out for a certain writer out there that not a single Big Ten or SEC team made the Final Four. So his argument is bullshit. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, it's really right now in men's soccer, the Pac-12 and the ACC are kind of the clear-cut number 1 and 2 conferences. The Big East is pretty strong. And the Big Ten and SEC are good, but like let's not fool ourselves.
Yeah, no, it's a tough loss, and I will say that I did feel as though every time there would be a corner kick, I felt like I felt positive, and I felt like there was a chance that the Billikens were going to score. So
yeah,
they at least. They look dangerous the entire game. So
they created chances. They had, like I said when we were talking to Kyle, they created chaos in front of the net several different times. A lot of times those ended on a shot that went high or wide. Seemed like they were kind of having trouble getting getting the right touch on the ball at the end, but chances were definitely there.
Yeah. Let's move on. Obviously, we'll have more soccer coverage. We'll see what the heck goes on. We'll probably talk a little Final Four next episode, and look forward to the off season. Maybe get a certain Mr. Soccer, somebody to come on and recap that season. Not sure yet how that'll work. Let's move on to men's basketball. A busy week for the men's basketball team. They traveled to Boise. That's a nightmare of a trip, I'm sure. Just travel logistics wise. But they came out with an 86-82 win, Pete.
Yeah, and the way this one started, it didn't seem like that was going to happen. SLU went down 11-0 to start this one, and it really took some time to get going out there.
Yeah, there was 2. I think Yuri Collins missed 2, and then there was the missed dunk. Do I have that right? That was the first 3 misses.
Yeah, and not just that. Then Collins wound up with, I think, his second foul about 5 minutes into the half, and it was just kind of like, what is going on here? So just a a brutal start to this game, but once we kind of got that out of the way, things really settled in nicely.
I think the what there were two things that impressed me big time with was three things. Sorry, three individual things that impressed me big time in this game. Jimerson, free throw shooting, and the emergence of Deandre Jones. And I think we should save the emergence of Deandre Jones for the UAB game because there's not much exciting things to talk about in that one. And I think we need to leave it at that. So let's talk about Jimerson. Jimerson kind of pulled out his inner Javante in this one a couple times, including a very, very tough fadeaway jumper from the elbow that was in an incredibly clutch situation.
Yeah, so Jimerson, we've talked about him adding other layers to his game this season, but it's also kind of in the X's and O's because he's constantly in motion in this offense, and has definitely shown that now he's just not a shooter wandering the perimeter or the baseline trying to get open outside, but that no matter where he gets the ball, he's a threat to score. You never would have thought last year that it would be possible that you would see Jimerson score 21 in a game and only take 2 3-pointers. Just to show you how much both the offense and his game individually have been built out. And yeah, like it's just talking about scoring on 3 levels, backdoor cuts, working it out of the mid range, going to the rim and getting fouled, and getting fouled is a great strategy for him, going 8 for 8 from the line. So I love Jimerson's game here.
Yeah, he's really impressed me. And you mentioned always in motion because there's a lot of hand wringing over the last year or so about Jimerson getting lost in the offense and ending up standing in the corner. And there's not a lot of that this season. And I hope he has the conditioning to get through this damn season because my goodness, the guy is constantly around. Like, it is brutal to there's two things defenses are doing now. They're trying to eliminate Yuri from possessing the ball or running the offense. And they're just desperately trying to hold onto Jimerson as he runs around the court like a crazy person.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is. I would still like to see him get loose a little bit more for 3, but I don't mind a game like this at all. I mean, 6 of 8, 1 of 2 of 3, and perfect from the free throw line. Just didn't need a lot of shots to be lethal against these guys. And again, they're chasing him everywhere, so it kind of keeps defenses honest at all times. Just having him out there is a threat.
Absolutely. And I think the second biggest story of this game, besides Jimerson, is the free throw shooting. What a complete opposite experience that was to last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
It's you knew we were going to be better from the free throw line. I think we all said that coming out of last year, coming into this year, we just knew it. I didn't know how significant it would be this fast. I mean, it's amazing. We're not going to go 30 for 34 from the free throw line every night, and our opponent isn't going to go 12 for 26 from the free throw line every night. But it means so much that you can't put us on the line anymore as a strategy to keep us from scoring. And that includes our bigs too. Both Linson and Okoro, when they go to the line, are making them at a pretty good clip. So it feels nice to know that you can't be taken out of the game that way anymore.
Absolutely. And I think what people kind of missed with the more hand wringing about free throw shooting last year and the year before, just really anytime you had Goodwin and French out there, is you would often see really good free throw shooting percentages for 1 or 2 nights in a year. And when you look at it, it was pretty obvious why. It would be because maybe French was in foul trouble, or maybe they just did not give it to him in the paint a whole lot, or he was kind of eliminated from the game defensively. So you knew that by subtracting those two options. Really, the only question mark for free throw shooting this year was going to be how good would Okoro be from the line?
Yeah, and so far he's proven to be at least a reasonable threat from the line. So I don't have his number in front of me right now, but thought I remember them saying last night he was over 70%, about 75%. So yeah, both he and we knew Linson was good, but seeing Okoro come in and being able to hit like that is a big deal. So really really good stuff from these guys.
Yeah, I'm at 75.6%.
Yeah,
And I
okay.
believe that includes last night's game.
Which is great. I mean, you
Yeah.
just the number I keep in mind is 70%. That's kind of like if you average out all of college free throw shooting over a season, it's at about 70%. So if you've got guys above 70, that's good. And obviously the higher the better. But we've had teams that were in the high 50s and low 60s for the past few years, which is just abysmal. So what a turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so impressive, and it's so nice to not have to worry. And I still find myself having anxiety whenever we go to the free throw line. It's kind of funny.
It's called PTSD. we've got years of that built up for free throw shooting right now. So it's been what, 8 games that we're or 9 games, I guess now that we've actually seen decent free throw shooting, and that doesn't erase years.
Yeah, I think this game illustrates that this team can still win in different ways. And I think it's you're not, unfortunately, what we're going to get into when it comes to the UAB game is there are going to be games that specifically are built for Javonte Perkins to win. Good. The positive note is that the Boise State game was not that. Yes, it was weird. Yes, the flow and pace was weird. Yes, it started off with Yuri Collins having a bit of a nightmare. He did come on strong at the end. You had Doug Gottlieb, who was obviously smoking weed before the game. I swear to God, that dude was high as a kite.
There were times like I have very.
He wasn't even bad announcing.
He wasn't bad. He would say something where you'd be like, "What are you talking about?" It was almost like a young, sarcastic kind of like Bill Walton experience where you're like, all right, rein it in a little bit there, buddy. Like he was nothing like Walton, but it was that kind of thing where you're just like, you don't quite know what he's going to say next.
Stream of consciousness. Like,
yeah,
dude, he's like, I'm in Boise. I'm sitting at my hotel. I have a weed hookup and he's hitting the bong. Like it was insane. I mean, even from the jump, he kicked it off with mask commentary, and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, very weird. It was making fun of Jimerson's shoes, saying he's wearing like nurse's shoes or something. Like
oh my goodness.
Yeah, but then then he'd go on to make some really good points, or like, he was unafraid to call out the refs who were really bad in this game, or at least really inconsistent. So yeah, I don't know, very up and down experience. Everything about this game was just a little off, and feel very fortunate to come away with the win.
Where did you see the poor officiating the most? Because I think I was most up in arms with the rebounding. I thought every time Boise State was allowed to rake our guys on the arms when they brought it down a defensive rebound.
Yeah, I think that's probably, if you had to pick one area they were kind of missing, that was it. I think at a higher level, I would just say they were just so inconsistent. I felt like all night we were just getting baffling calls against us, but honestly, in the last minute or two, when it really mattered, the calls seemed to kind of go our way.
They did.
Whether it meant, swallowing the whistle or whatever. There were a couple that could have gone against us in the last couple of minutes and didn't. And it was just like, all right, I'll take them. And I could hear the fans in there booing, as loud as they could, but I kind of felt like it had been going the other way all night. So I'll take it.
Yeah, that first of all, we got to talk about the savvy play by Jimerson, and is that coaching? Did a coach point that out to him that, I'd love to see him do that more, because he has
Yeah.
people legitimately grabbing on his jersey to keep up with him.
Yeah.
And so many times he's probably had the ability to just stop and have them knock him over. So I would love to see that, more of that going forward, as far as a strategy when, maybe the offense is stalled, or maybe Jimerson just having no chance of getting open at a certain point. But then there's the play, the big one. I think it was Okoro. Okoro's foot. He tripped over Okoro, and they wanted a foul there.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, I mean, I don't think that should be a foul, because obviously Okoro, he came from behind Okoro, right?
Yeah, and I think the question there has to be whether his foot's planted or not, and it felt to
Right.
me like it was.
It's supposed to be an automatic foul, though, right?
I honestly don't know on that.
That was
if
I
your
think that's
foot's
what
planted.
Gottlieb was getting at, because
Yeah,
Gottlieb called it out.
he did call it out. But he was also calling out. So the one you're referring to before that is when Jimerson was basically shoved to the ground twice in a row by the same defender, because he kind of was
flop on the second one, though.
He was steamrolled on the first one. So Gottlieb's point was it was gamesmanship on Jimerson's part, knowing that a defender was chasing him, to stop, let the defender run into him. He didn't get the first whistle, so he gets up, stops again. The defender runs into him again. Not as much contact as the first time, but he hits the deck. He hits the deck again and gets the whistle. You can't run into a guy. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like,
it's
a guy
a foul.
A guy can run or not run whenever he wants. It doesn't, call it whatever you want. You can't just run a guy over. So yeah, I mean, to me, it should have been called the first time. It was called the second time. Fine. I don't care. And I don't know why Gottlieb belabored that point so much. It was just such a cut and dry foul to me.
Yeah, no, it was a wild freaking game.
It was a weird game.
Abu Kijab, the unlikely star for Boise, 27 points. 8
we couldn't stop him.
Talk to us about the leaders and stats on this one, Pete.
Yeah, so in the Boise State game, Jimerson's our leading scorer with 21, has a really efficient night. Collins winds up with 15 points, but man, it really took him a while to get going in this one. And we could get into this on the next game, but he hasn't been playing his best basketball of late. Really bad start, didn't play most of the first half here. And then winds up actually playing pretty well down the stretch, kind of being the Yuri Collins that we know and love. And then we've got Fred Thatch, who kind of a little more quietly winds up with 12 and 5 in this one. The other player I want to call out is Deandre Jones, because when Collins went out early in this game with foul trouble, Jones comes in, and the nice story here is that he's from Boise. Mm-hmm. So this is his home crowd. We saw after the game, he had a big contingent of family and friends there. And he winds up playing 25 minutes in this game and has a really solid, 8 points, 2 assists, gets a rebound, a steal. Really, really sound minutes in this one. So loved seeing him play, more than half the game in front of his hometown crowd. And then, on the other side, Boise's got 5 guys in double digits, led by Kijab, who is not their leading scorer coming into this game. I want to say he was their 4th leading scorer. So you're looking at guys like Acott, and Deegan Hart and maybe Shaver as the guys who are going to beat you. And that doesn't end up being the case. They're low double digits for all 3 of those guys. So just a really unusual game.
God, I hated Deegan Hart. Is that what they felt like when we had Cody Ellis? Because Deegan Hart had a lot of Cody Ellis. And I'm not just we're not just talking that they're both white. Deegan Hart moved like Cody Ellis. He was built like Cody Ellis. That did and
he got multiple charge calls that were borderline. I think that was kind of the number one similarity to me is there were a couple times where he hit the deck, got the call, and it was just oh God. That really frustrated me, because if I were a college ref, I would think I would call maybe 1 in 10 actual charges. I think they just love calling charges.
They love doing this.
I hate charges.
They got to change the signal for charges.
Exactly.
It's too demonstrative. It's too much fun to do.
Right. So he got a couple of those, and I think that's where I kind of, I almost tweeted something to at Cody to kind of be like, hey, we've got a Cody Ellis clone alert. but yeah, anyway, always frustrating when you've got a guy on the other side who's picking up charge calls.
I think the pendulum of this game swung the Billikens' way because of free throw shooting, and it was on our end, and it was not on their end. 12 of 26 for them, and then of course the big one where Jimerson with the cockiest smile you'll ever see in your life fouls Boise State's big, and the big goes to the line and proceeds to miss 2 in a row, and that's the game right there.
Yeah, it was great. Almost poetic. Like that a lot.
Billikens move on to last night where they played UAB at home. A late arriving crowd in this one, but it ended up being a very nice atmosphere, especially towards the end in a close game. Unfortunately, the Blazers came away with this one 77-72. Pete, this game was, from a neutral perspective, probably one of the more fun games I think the Billikens have been involved in a while.
It is, or it was. I mean, it was really, unfortunately, a tale of two halves.
Yes.
Exactly 2/3 of our scoring, 48 points, came in the first half. And you never want to see that. 48 points first half followed up by a 24-point second half. And it really felt like that, right? I mean, we had basically the opposite of the the start we had against Boise, hitting shots early, making plays, moving the ball around. I think I tweeted it early on, like, this looks like a completely different team than we've seen going to the rim. They were so confident taking it in, and against bigs that had size like Buffin and Jemison. So I was just so impressed by the way things went in the first half of this game.
Yeah, they had some really nice. They had 2 really nice bigs and 2 really, really good shooting guards, and
Yeah.
I think those 4 players made the difference in this game.
Absolutely.
It was first of all, let's just get right to Deandre Jones, because my goodness, this dude was setting Chaffetz ablaze last night.
Yeah. So did he hit his first 4 3-point attempts?
I believe it was his first 4.
Yeah, and all in the first half as well. He wound up 5 for 7 from 3 on the night. I want to say he missed his 5th, and then missed one of his last 2 as well in the second half. But yeah, he comes in and has a great night on another night where Collins early on especially was just not getting a lot of good looks. And they bring Jones in. They were playing together for the most part. But I want to say they overlapped a little bit. They played alongside each other, and then Jones played without him for a little bit because Collins got into a little foul trouble again in this one. And man, he was great. His minutes, we've talked about how solid he's been, but this was the first game where he really broke out and scored.
Yeah, it seemed like he was getting a lot of open looks, and I don't know if that was UAB keying in on a guy like Jimerson or being so laser focused on a guy like Yuri Collins and making sure that Yuri didn't beat them.
Yeah.
But Deandre Jones, got his opportunity and made the most of it in this one. It was a lot of fun to watch this hot start. I mean, it was a shootout back and forth. Both teams were making threes. You don't love to see UAB making the shots they made, obviously, but I didn't think that we were the only thing, look, you can say that it's bad defense, but I think UAB's offense, other than maybe getting really, really good looks at the rim, I thought the Billiken defense was decent on UAB shooters.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I kind of looked at your note earlier and thought, is this more of an issue of our defense or their offense? And I really do think they were a better looking offensive team than I expected, because we talked about coming into this game. They are relying on almost all transfers on this roster. And you wonder how they gel, after not that many games. But as it turns out, they've got a lot of talent, to be honest, and they played better together than I expected. So I give their offense a lot of credit. I think the bigger story here, we came into this game not loving this matchup, worried about the matchup because of turnovers. We only end up with 11 turnovers, which is great. I'll take that pretty much any night. But the real issue here was rebounding. What happened on the glass here, Zach?
You know, man, a lot of tip outs, a lot of just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, a lot of balls going over heads. That's at least how I saw it through my Michelob Ultra glazed glasses. Yeah, no, I didn't think it was, so much of I thought there was a little bit that it was UAB's effort on the glass, but I thought a lot of it was just, UAB took so many perimeter jumpers that the long rebounds killed us. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
that's absolutely right.
I think there were not a lot of chances for offensive rebounds on shots with, close to the rim, because when UAB was getting attempts at the rim inside, they were wide open and they cashed them.
A lot of their offensive rebounds came off of Walker 3-point attempts.
Yes.
He was 4 for 10 from 3.
I thought you that shocks me. I swear to God, that dude went like 8 for 11.
It really does feel like he shot a lot more. But he's one of those guys. He's a smaller player, and he will shoot it going either direction, going forward, backward, off the dribble, off the pass, fading away. You never quite know when and where he's going to shoot. He's got range, which means you could never quite know where the ball's going once it's up there. And they had two bigs, Buffin and Jemison, who had they're both bigger than I realized. Buffin's just a really big, long guy, and Jemison actually is a guy that SLU recruited out of high school, who wound up picking Clemson over SLU, and then eventually transferring to UAB. He's definitely grown since since those days. So both of those guys were they wound up with, I think, 9 offensive boards between the two of them, and then tipped out a lot more that didn't all wind up in UAB's hands. But man, those guys were all over the offensive glass, and that was just a nightmare. And honestly, I think that's the difference in this game. We give them 15 offensive rebounds. We only get 5. So they wind up with 17 second chance points to our 6, and we still have a chance to win this game in the last minute. So just really frustrating, because I kind of thought it was maybe 2/3 effort and skill and size on their point, and 1/3 bad luck. And that just kind of wound up being enough.
We mentioned their second chance points, and a lot of their second chance points were off 3-point shots that were coming from passes out of the post, off rebounds. And one person that I thought did really well in this game passing out of the post is someone we have kind of criticized for his inability to pass on the post, and that's Okoro. I wish he would have had more offensive rebounds in this game, or and more chances to get it out of the post, because I thought he looked to make that pass much more in this game.
He did, and I think he does a better job passing out of the post when it's an offensive board, or if he's in the high post, because once he's down low out of the flow of the half court offense is when I think he's the least likely to kind of look around and actually make the pass. But to your point, we would have been better served by getting him on the offensive glass a little bit more. He did show a little bit more range to his game, though. I agree completely.
Yuri Collins, let's talk. What's eating Yuri Collins? That's the segment.
It's funny to say, because we, after the first 3 games, because we were kind of crowning him all conference first team.
You want to crown their ass, crown them.
Against the weakest competition that we're playing all season, of course. And he's been kind of shaky since then. What we're not used to from him is this many turnovers, right? I mean, he only had 3 in those first 3 games, again, against not the best competition. But since then he's had 31, and which means he's averaging over 5 a game, which definitely does concern me. He's only barely over a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio since then. And I'm trying to been, talking to people and kind of figuring out what's going on, because some of this has to do with, yeah, things are a little bit different offensively this year. He's playing with new players in the backcourt completely. We've had more roster turnover than people realize. But he's also, I think he's a little more focused on scoring this year for one. And his shot selection hasn't been the greatest. I think he's good about knowing when to go to the rim when things kind of part for him, but at the same time, he can kind of get himself into trouble. And then I think that's also making him kind of hold on to the ball a little bit too long, get in a little bit too deep, and then not have the best and easiest option in front of him. I think he's just kind of overcomplicating things. So just odd to see his decision making a little bit different this year. And I don't know if you're seeing things the same way, but I don't want to say like I'm worried about him. I think he's figuring it out, but
he's got more responsibility.
He does, and we need him to be rock solid if it's gonna work this year.
I mean, would you like to see him kind of maybe back off of the idea that he needs to score a little more and see if we can't survive without it?
I think I personally would, because I want to see him kind of get back into a groove of being that point guard first mentality. I think as soon as Perkins went down, he probably kind of changed his mentality a little bit, which is totally understandable because the points do have to come from somewhere. But I think he's got to have a little bit more faith in his teammates and, make that first play. It's, I think a lot of times you'll kind of go, oh, it's right there. And he holds it. And it just, I think he's overthinking it a little bit.
Yeah. And we mentioned, we talk about Jimerson running around quite a bit and how tough that's got to be to, and these guys are, not world-class athletes, but close enough, like as far as athletic, like not at their sport, but athletically, yeah, they're world-class. So the question becomes, is there something to be said for how much teams are making him work even before they get set, that he is now, already gassed 10, 15 seconds into the shot clock, and maybe he doesn't have that extra gear to get to the hoop or, to get to a spot to get the handoff back in the, the whatever set they're running.
I think that's an excellent point. He's seeing a lot more press so far this year. He's seeing a lot more traps. It's one thing to be able to make the first best decision when you're playing just a straight up one-on-one. But it's another when you're right, they're already, harassing you as soon as you cross the timeline. So yeah, that's definitely a point. There are some layers here, not to mention him getting in foul trouble the last couple games on top of it.
Yeah. It's tough because he's the guy, right? And he's our guy. And you really don't want to ride him too hard because he's dealing with a lot in this season.
He is.
But at the same time, there's expectations. And as a fan, we maybe have too high of expectations, but Yuri Collins has also set those expectations himself.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of find a middle ground between, being asshole fans and understanding men for others that we learned at St. Louis University, right?
Yeah, I still think he'll be all right, but clearly needs to just find that balance.
Yeah, I think we're playing teams that I think this will be good for him because at the end of the day, you're going to go up against the A10 who's seen you play for every year for X number of years, and they're going to be as ready as everybody. They're going to be even more ready. So
right.
Getting this now will hopefully he'll be up to speed by the time the new year comes around and A10 play kicks off.
Yeah.
Let's talk let's see what happened this week in the Atlantic 10. It's the Atlantic 10 truly is it's the roller coaster 10, really, Pete.
Yeah, I know they don't make it easy. They don't make it easy on us. It's yet another kind of up and down week in the conference. And we've kind of by now you come to expect it from the bottom half, but would really like to see some of these these top half teams do a little bit better here.
Yeah, it kicked off Tuesday. Monday, everybody had off. Davidson beat a good Charlotte, a decent Charlotte team, 75-58. Billikens came away at Boise with 86-82 win. Fordham blows out St. Francis College Brooklyn. Don't look now, people, but Fordham is above 500, coming close to the Christmas holiday. 68-46 in this one. St. Joe's beats Binghamton 79-57. Boston University takes down George Washington 56-54. Bowling Green beats Duquesne 78-70. Temple beat LaSalle 73-57. Rhode Island beat Harvard 64-57. Richmond beat Wofford 73-64. Bonaventure ekes out a win. It was a little sketchy for a while there, but Bonaventure wins 93-81 versus Coppin State. Dayton also scores 93 points, but against Alabama State, who had 54. Saturday, St. Joe's drops a blowout to Villanova 81-52. Harvard loses to UMass, or UMass beats Harvard 87-77. Rhode Island loses to Providence College 66-52. Dayton beats UNI 79-41. LaSalle 84, Holy Cross 65. Charlotte comes back to beat another A10 foe that they had to play in the same week, 86-79. They should just stayed in the conference if they're going to play everybody.
Yeah, they didn't need football.
Davidson 70, William and Mary 46. Bonaventure wins the Western New York battle 68-65 over Buffalo. VCU 65, Campbell 61. UAB 77, SLU 72. Duquesne drops a 1-point game to Marshall 72-71. And then George Mason loses by 10 to Old Dominion in Fairfax. Today, Richmond beats Northern Iowa 60-52, and Fordham drops a game to St. John's, coached by Mike Anderson, who you'll be familiar with, 83-69. Let's talk about what's coming. Oh, well, first of all, you got anything to say about this Atlantic 10 week?
Honestly, when you look at the whole thing, it's
I stopped rooting. Do we root for the conference? I'm done with it. I'm done rooting for the conference. I don't care. They suck.
It's still a little bit better week than we've seen the last couple of weeks. So I will give them that, but I don't necessarily love some of these results. Bonaventure's like barely beating teams that they should be blowing out, for example. But it's I guess this week is incremental improvement over where we were the 2 weeks leading into it.
This week was like everybody jumping on the Dayton bandwagon again. Like, what are we doing? Like, okay, well, I mean, they beat Kansas. Okay, great. Like, we beat Louisville in 2001. Like, that team still was not very good.
It's a little soon
Anthony
to say.
Andrea.
Yeah, it's a little soon to say Dayton has suddenly figured it out. I mean, they had an upset, and now they've beaten 2 bad teams. So, there's still more to see there.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where they go, and I'll be keeping an eye on them this week. I know they have a decent test at SMU, so that's one to keep an eye on. The Billikens' upcoming week, it's gonna be a tough week. We've got Belmont on Tuesday the 7th. Tell our listeners a little bit about Belmont.
So I said coming into this year, don't be surprised if Belmont is the best team on the schedule when all is said and done. We're now seeing Memphis implode completely. So there's one. Auburn still looks pretty good though. And, some of the other teams were, I think UAB is going to keep trending upward. Belmont is 6-3 right now. They're arguably kind of underachieving based on expectations. There was I'm forgetting at the moment what Nashville's newspaper is called, but they had an article about a month ago, right before the regular season started, that this is the best roster in Belmont history. They returned a bunch of guys to a team that went 26-4, won the regular season conference, was one of the highest scoring teams in all of the country. And yeah, they're 6-3. They started the season with a loss to Ohio. They've also lost to LSU and an obviously very up and down Dayton team. They've got a couple good wins. Drake is one of them. Iona is another. So they're good. We don't quite know how good yet. But they kind of play like we thought they would. They shoot a lot. They play fast. They're efficient from everywhere. So inside out, free throw line, they're an efficient scoring team, and they move the ball really well. They don't, for as fast as they play, they don't turn it over much. They tend to kind of shoot early in a possession, and they tend to have very low fouling games on both ends. So they play kind of a fast, clean game, which is generally pretty fun to watch, but makes me a little bit nervous. Kind of a little counterintuitive based on their style, but their most productive player, scoring wise, is Nick Muzinski, who's a 6'11", 235 center, averaging about 18 and 7. And then number 2 is their Ben Shepherd, 6'6" wing, who's averaging a little over 16 a game. So those are their top 2 players, and they do go pretty deep. So be ready for a team that plays together well, that plays fast, scores a lot, and isn't going to put us on the free throw line as much as we've seen in the last couple of games.
Yeah, that's going to be. I would like to see them put us on the line a little bit more. Boston College comes to town Saturday the 11th. This is not the Boston College that's been the doormat the last few years.
They're a little bit better. They've got a first-year coach, Earl Grant, who was at Charleston previously, and they're kind of the opposite of Belmont in a lot of ways. They play a really low-scoring, slow defensive style relative to Belmont. It's weird to think that the ACC school we're playing this week doesn't scare me as much as the Ohio Valley school, but regardless, Boston College is also 6-3. So, like you said, a little bit better than they've been. They lost to Utah, and they've actually lost to Rhode Island twice, kind of a quirk of their schedule that they played them both in a neutral event and on their regular non-conference schedule. They've already opened ACC play with a win over Notre Dame, and then they've beaten a couple Ivy League schools and a couple other bye games that they should have won. They've got a really balanced scoring attack. They've got 7 guys who average between 7 and 12 points a game. So expect kind of more of a defensive battle here. They're going to look to slow things down. They're a good 3-point shooting team, but they don't shoot it a ton. They're just, a little more Soderberghian in their approach to the game. So a much different team than we can expect with Belmont.
Yeah, that Notre Dame game is weird because I don't think Notre Dame's been as good as they have been in previous years. So it's kind of like a switch there between the 2 programs. But I mean, it's still a team, the Notre Dame team that, only lost to Illinois by 10, who's got a very, very good team. Played Texas A&M really tough. But it'll be interesting to see what this Boston College team brings to St. Louis.
Yeah, I just think they're still a bottom half ACC team for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame's been down for a few years as well. But it seems like at least early on, this new coach at least has a vision for how he can win some games with this squad.
All right. Well, that's men's basketball. Women's basketball trying to turn things around. They've got an easier slate of games as of recent. They get a win this week, 83-54 at Southeast Missouri State. Interesting to see them going on the road at kind of these semi-local programs. It's a good win for the Billikens. I mean, SEMO's not a very good team, but anytime you go on the road and you're on a bad slide, going and winning a game by almost 30 points is good enough for me, I think.
Yeah, what a relief it was to kind of look down and see like, oh wow, they're really blowing this team out. It's just not something we've seen from them yet, and to do it on the road, yeah, even though it's a team you're supposed to beat, just a much better performance from them than we're used to seeing. They shot it much better. They still left a little to be desired from three. Haven't quite figured that out this year, but anytime they were punching it inside, it seemed to be working out well. And Brooke Flowers gives you a monster game with 19 points and 18 rebounds.
Yeah, the 3-point shooting still an issue with this team, especially losing their best 3-point shooter in oh gosh, Rachel Kent. Thank you. Jinx on me, Coke. Yeah, no, still an issue. 5 of 17 in this one. 0 of 2 in the first quarter, 1 of 4 in the second, 1 of 4 in the third. But in the fourth quarter, they turned it on and shot 3 of 7, a 42.8% clip. So, yeah, not much you can really take from this one other than it's a good bounce back game. The one notable aspect from this game, I will say, is that Julia Martinez was absent from the box score. I could not tell if she was on the bench. There was no note on the play-by-play about what her status is. I will say the bench looks incredibly empty for the Billikens in these last 2 games. And we can get into that more in the next game. But interesting to see that Julia Martinez was not in the box score for this one, nor was she in the box score for the Billikens' 59-54 win over Tennessee Martin in Tennessee on Sunday, 12-5. It's odd. But the one bright note I thought in this game, besides the fact they came away with a win, I thought the Billikens could have won by way more. They held UT Martin to 1 field goal in the first half, and that was with like 3 seconds to go in the half. They scored 6 points at the free throw line in that first half.
That's
first quarter. I'm sorry, first quarter.
Right. Yeah. So 12-6 first quarter. So, yeah, that's really impressive. And you mentioned Martinez. The other thing that's kind of odd there, she's not in the game recap or notes for either of these games, either pregame or postgame. So truly kind of a mystery at this point. And as soon as we figure out what's going on there, we'll let everybody know.
Yeah, I like we said, the women's basketball team has a bit of a cupcake schedule leading into the Christmas holiday.
It's it might be strong to call it cupcake. I mean,
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
SEMO certainly was, and I think Tennessee Martin's probably a team you beat by double digits if you play them at home. Credit to SLU for going on the road and playing these games. And I'm guessing these are part of like home and homes or 2-for-1s or whatever with some of these teams. They do play. So this Thursday, the 9th, they do play a 3-3 SIUE team. That actually it has some pretty good wins. Illinois, Butler, and then Purdue, Fort Wayne, and losses to Kansas, Memphis, and Mizzou. So you look at their schedule, we actually have a lot of common opponents and kind of, more or less the same results against them. They'll play Western Illinois on Tuesday, so they'll have less than 48 hours rest and prep for the SLU game on Thursday. So that might play to our advantage. SIUE is playing at home though, and yeah, it's only a half-hour, 40-minute bus ride or whatever from SLU. So it's not much of a road trip, but you're still not playing at home.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No. I was my note was for after the schedule talk. So
okay, yeah, gotcha. So Saturday the 11th, they're gonna host Northern Kentucky at home. Similar level to SIUE. Northern Kentucky's a Horizon team, SIUE an Ohio Valley team. And Northern Kentucky's actually played a few conference games already, which is kind of odd. They've got wins over Eastern Kentucky, Green Bay, Miami, Ohio, Central Arkansas. They've lost to Kent State, Milwaukee, Cleveland State, those last 2 being conference games. And then they have a bye game versus a lower division opponent, Kentucky State, on Wednesday. So I think those are 2 pretty good litmus tests to see kind of where SLU stands as they get closer to conference play.
Yeah, I think this is a team that's 3-5 right now, but has a very good shot to be 8-5 going into conference play, which, considering the first, those 4 games between Mizzou, Kansas, Florida, and Florida Gulf Coast, you're in a decent position. They're the only game where you can really be truly upset at is Northern Iowa. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be positive about. I mean, yes, it's a lesser schedule that they're going into, but this is a team that again lost their best 3-point shooter, lost their best rebounder, and they've had bright spots recently in the most recent game. Peyton Kennedy looked really good today against UT Martin. She went 4 for 7 from the field. She looked good pulling down 3 rebounds in this one. Or I'm sorry, she only had 1 rebound, but I mean, she looked like she was able to hold her own in that kind of 3-4 position when they needed her to.
Yeah, the other bright spot here, I'll call out Kylie Bess.
Absolutely.
They've kind of needed as that sixth woman, the real shooter with Kent gone too. She went 3 of 7 in the previous game and 3 of 4 today from 3. So it looks like she's kind of finding her shot as the season goes on to establish herself as that kind of that first threat off the bench. Now, like you said before, speaking of bench, they're not going deep at all. They're really only playing a rotation of 6 at this point.
And they only had 9 total. They had 4 players on the bench.
9 total, 8 got in, and Ghoul and is it Twang?
Tong, I would go.
Tong.
Okay. I always go with say it the easiest, and you've probably got it right.
Yeah. So they only played 7 and 3 minutes respectively. They're both bigs. So they might not have even played at all had MST been not hurt. But yeah, they're not. So depth is obviously going to be a concern for them moving forward, especially given whatever's going on with Martinez.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with women's hoops. Looking forward to seeing them try to even up that record going forward. Hey, at least we ended this weekend on a win of some kind. It was a brutal day for me, including the Blues and Chelsea on Saturday. So I had a really rough Saturday for my sports team. So yeah, I'm glad the women's team got the win today, and that was a weird game today. I mean, I saw some steals that were just it almost looked like SLU was so much better than them when it came to defenses, that they were just stepping out in front of the ball and catching it with 2 hands. They weren't tipping the ball away; they were catching the intercepted pass. So anyway, yeah, that's what we got. Any last words before we remind everybody where they can catch us?
No, I don't think I've got anything. So why don't you send them?
Yeah, I think we're gonna. We've got Erwin Claggett in the can. Wait, what? We've got Erwin Claggett interview recorded, and it's ready to go. I want to thank the people that did tweet at us with their Spotify Wrapped. We're gonna send you out that interview the week before Christmas. I think we're gonna drop it either 24th, 25th, or 26th. I'm not sure. A little Christmas present for you guys. But if you do have us on your Spotify Wrapped, tweet at us, and we will send you the private YouTube link for that interview a week before it drops. So tweet at us, Midtown Mad Pod, with your Spotify Wrapped showing that you guys listened to us. We were your most listened podcast, and we'll send that out to you via direct message. Thank you guys for listening. Again, follow us at Midtown Mad Pod on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribing on your podcast apps, because that's how you're going to get it immediately when it comes out, and see, it'll download right away for you. So again, thank you all for watching, listening, however you listen to us. And again, we gotta thank Kevin Kalish one more time for taking the time to come on the show. He was outstanding, and thank you to Kevin Kalish and Kevin Stoll, Chris Birch, and the entire men's soccer program for just an unbelievable season. I don't think we really truly gave them the send off that we needed to in that earlier segment. So I wanted to give one more shout out to them.
Absolutely. That was a heck of the season. And I think I don't think there's anybody who would have said coming into this year, we expect, an undefeated walk through the non-conference conference schedule and all the way to the Elite Eight. I think this was a really outstanding season by any measure, and can't wait to see them run it back next season.
Yep. All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Go Bills.